Hi, everybody. So we're going to read the rest of Brown Girl Dreaming today. There's just a little bit left. You're keeping in mind the essential question, which was, there are three essential questions, but the one I want you to keep in mind as we read this book, how can stories help us understand the experiences and perspectives of others? All right, this one is titled Each World. When there are many worlds, you can choose the one you walk into each day. You can imagine yourself brilliant as your sister, slower moving, quiet and thoughtful as your older brother, or filled up with the hiccuping joy and laughter of the baby in the family. You can imagine yourself a mother now, climbing onto a bus at nightfall, turning to wave goodbye to your children, watching the world of South Carolina disappear behind you. When there are many worlds, love can wrap itself around you. Say, don't cry. Say, you are as good as anyone. Say, keep remembering me. And you know, even as the world explodes around you, that you are loved. Each day a new world opens itself up to you, and all the worlds you are, Ohio and Greenville, Woodson and Irby, Gunner's Child and Jack's Daughter, Jehovah's Witness and Non-Believer, Listener and Writer, Jackie and Jacqueline, gather into one world called you, where you decide what each world and each story and each ending will finally be. And that is the end of the book. She does have an author's note here. So I'm going to read it to you. Author's note. Memory is strange. When I first began to write Brown Girl Dreaming, my childhood memories of Greenville came flooding back to me. Small moments and bigger ones too. Things I hadn't thought about in years and other stuff I'd never forgotten. When I began to write it all down, I realized how much I missed the South. So for the first time in many years, I returned home and saw cousins I hadn't seen since I was small, heard stories I had heard many times from my grandmother, walked roads that were very different now, but still the same roads of my childhood. It was a bittersweet journey. I wish I could have walked those roads again with my mom, my grandfather, my Uncle Robert, my Aunt Kay, and my grandmother, but all have made their own journey to the next place. So I walked the roads alone this time. Still, it felt as though each of them was with me. They're all deeply etched now into memory. And that's what this book is, my past, my people, my memories, my story. I knew I couldn't write about the South without writing about Ohio, and even though I was only a baby when we lived there, I have the gift of my amazing Aunt Ada Adams, who was a genealogist and our family historian. She was my go-to person and filled in so many gaps in my memory. Aunt Ada took me right back to Columbus. During the writing of this book, I returned to Ohio with my family. Aunt Ada took us on a journey of the Underground Railroad, showed us the graves of grandparents and great-grandparents, told me so much history I had missed out on as a child. Aunt Ada not only showed me the past, but she also helped me understand the present. So often I am asked where my stories come from. I know my stories are a part of a continuum. My aunt is a storyteller. So were my mom and my grandmother. And the history Aunt Ida showed me, the rich history that is my history, made me at once proud and thoughtful. The people who came before me worked so hard to make this world a better place for me. I know my work is to make the world a better place for those coming after. As long as I can remember this, I can continue to do the work I was put here to do. On the journey to writing this book, my dad, Jack Woodson, chimed in when he could. Even as I write this, I smile because my father always makes me laugh. I like to think I acquired a bit of his sense of humor. I didn't know him for many years. When I met him again at the age of 14, it was as though a puzzle piece had dropped from the air and landed right where it belonged. My dad is that puzzle piece. Gaps were also filled in by my friend Maria, who helped the journey along with pictures and stories. When we were little, we used to say we'd one day be old ladies together, sitting in rocking chairs, remembering our childhood and laughing. We've been friends for nearly 5 decades now and still call each other my forever friend. I hope everyone has a forever friend in their life. But at the end of the day, I was alone with Brown Girl Dreaming, walking through these memories and making sense out of myself as a writer in a way I had never done before. I am often asked if I had a hard life growing up. I think my life was very complicated and very rich. Looking back on it, I think my life was at once ordinary and amazing. I couldn't imagine any other life. I know that I was lucky enough to be born during a time when the world was changing like crazy, and that I was part of that change. I know that I was and continue to be loved. I couldn't ask for anything more. I want to show you a little bit. These are her pictures of her as a child. Just because I know you guys don't have the book, not all of you. These are her parents. And there's her brothers, and her sister. Okay, and in the very back she has poems, and a lot of them are the poems that were throughout the book. So in the back it has some of her poems that were published separately from just this book. All right, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this. You can take an AR test on this, and I think it's worth quite a few points because it was a big book. So I know we've been reading it for 3 or 4 weeks. Hopefully you'll remember enough to take a test on it and do well on it. I encourage you to take an AR test on this, okay? All right, hold on. You've got more to listen to today.